I have never been so nervous, so excited to start a book that I have never read. This should have been what the first child was. Am I allowed to say that? I don't think so. Today is the day that I'm going to finally sit down and read Manacled. In true millennial fashion, I grew up living, breathing Harry Potter. It was life. And so I was a little nervous to give away my innocence and trade it for something a little darker. But when I heard about this book ceasing to exist, essentially, I knew that I had to read it before I couldn't anymore. So I wanted to go into this as blind as possible. So I really know very little about this book. I know that it is a fan fiction. This is going to be my first fan fiction, actually. And that it is beloved. People love this book. And I know that this book is very dark. It has a lot of trigger warnings. It has a lot of very intense themes, which is mostly why I've avoided it. Oh, and I know that it is Dramoni. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I really hope I'm saying that right. Is it Dramoni? Dramone? Dramoni. Well, if it's Hermione, it should be Dramini. Dramini? Oh, hold on. Someone's done it.
Dramine.
Dramion?
Dramine.
I think you're wrong. Well, it's Hermione, so it has to be Dramini. Anyway, okay, that's really the point. We're reading some fiction which Dramini, however hell you say it. This is a fan fiction style featuring Draco Malfoy and Hermione. I have secured myself an ebook version of it, but I have also found it on Spotify as a podcasty style audiobook. So we have both, and we're just gonna go into it. I really have no idea what to expect. Anyway, let's go read Manacled. Terrified, but let's go. Let's do this. Okay, so I have so many feelings right now. But yeah, we're gonna take my dog for a walk, and I have so many things to discuss with you. Alright, so I'm still kind of in the beginning, really early stages of this book. First of all, I'm impressed. The level of detail and accuracy to the Harry Potter world is pretty impressive. Like, I'm pretty stoked with that. Second of all, I kind of didn't mention this earlier, but this book was actually inspired by a mix of Harry Potter meets Handmaid's Tale, and it's literally that. The more I'm listening, the more I'm reading, the more that makes so much sense. Okay. I've been taken on a wild ride with this book so far. Yeah. Last time I left you, I had listened to the first 5 chapters and I was like, this book is amazing. What have I been doing my whole life? Like, why haven't I read this yet? I'm re-entering the Harry Potter universe. I totally get it. And then I was up to chapter 5. And if you've read this book, you know that chapter 6 has some trigger warnings. And since then, things went dark. I went dark. Dropped off the face of the planet, and I woke up and we're at 30%. We're in the flashbacks. We've got a little bit of catch up to play because I blitzed through the first part and I need to give you my thoughts. I'm actually going to do this in 2 different parts. Number 1, this part is the non-spoiler version. I'm just going to give you the general gist, the feels, the character, the vibes. If you want a non-spoiler version because you want to read it, this is it. I will be releasing a spoiler version if you want to see someone else go through the experience, or if you understand that these trigger warnings are just not for you and you are not going to read because of the trigger warnings, but you want to understand the world. The spoiler version is definitely going to be your vibes. That's kind of how we're doing it. So I needed a sec to gather my thoughts because it has just been non-stop pretty dark. In the beginning section, if you are completely unaware, it's one large volume, but it is 3 parts. First is the beginning, then it goes into flashbacks, and then the ending. The beginning is what I have just plowed through. We are done. It truly is Handmaid's Tale, Had a Baby with Harry Potter. Essentially, we start off the story with Hermione. She's in a cell. She has been there for months. We discover that she was captured as part of a raging war that's been happening So this book's set after the Order of the Phoenix, so the 5th book. And so there's a big war that set off from that. So because she's been locked up for so long, they do this whole like physical on her. They discover in the physical that her brain, there's like layers of like locked memories that she's like created these like fugue states in certain parts of her brains to like cover and protect certain memories. And so they're like, what are you hiding, girl? Like, what are you up to? Simultaneously, they've also decided that they are going to put her in this new breeding program. This is where the Handmaid's Tale part comes in. Basically, during the war, all of the wizarding populations kind of declined to the point that Voldemort is no longer precious about it having to be purebloods. He's just like, we just need magical folk, because I think even the purebloods are having trouble conceiving. They're having a lot of squibs. They were like, cool, well, we have all these people, wizarding folk who haven't joined our forces, that have just been sitting in prisons. We're going to use them as surrogates to create a new wizarding community. So she is one of those people. She gets shipped off to the High Reeve, who is the second in command to Lord Voldemort nowadays. He is like the highest tier Death Eater. This is where it kind of gets dark, and it just keeps going darker. And it's just kind of months of surrogate program. Yeah, it's pretty much Handmaid's Tale. If you've seen that, yeah, so in the end of the first section, she's starting to recoup some of her memories, and kind of some of these older memories are resurfacing. So far, it's just literally flashback after flashback after flashback. So that is what we're up to. So we're going to keep reading. Going to read for a little bit and then keep you appraised, hopefully a little bit more as I go through this, because that was a really big brain dump. So thank you for bearing with me. Okay, so in the flashbacks, things that had been like little seeds that had been planted in the beginning section, mini half memories, she started to kind of unpack those. So we kind of got a little sneak peek of it, and now we get the answer, which is kind of cool. A morally grey character, probably the most morally grey that I've come across. I am newer to this, so I'm not a great advocate of morally grey, but yeah. Oh, why is this so good? SenLinYu has done such a good job of painting these characters. Ah! What? Oh god. I'm a little concerned how much I'm enjoying this story based on how toxic it is. So. Their banter. Their banter is good. Okay, so I just got back from the cafe. I'm at flashback 11. I'm 37% of the way in. I understand why people are like, this book gives you emotional trauma, because it a little bit does. But, caveat, I also think that it is beautifully written. It talks to a lot of really intense topics with a lot of nuance, and I love me some nuance. So, I have decided that I need these books in my physical shelf. They need to exist in this earth plane with me. So I've secured a typeset and I'm just now going to try and figure out how to print these bad boys because, in case you're unaware, buying fan fiction is illegal. So we are going to do what we are allowed to do, which is to print it for personal use. So that is what I'm doing. One thing that is kind of fun about this that I am kind of loving, there is no like rules for, I don't have to order the mass market paperback with the ugly cover. I get to make my own. Wild. So I get to create my own little cover, which is quite cool. Obviously, that is not my art, so I'm not really making my own. I just found the cover art and I got to design it, the spine and things like that, and I made a little unique piece on the back. So it's like unique to me. Kind of wish I could do this with all of my books, which is terrifying because I can. I don't need another hobby that costs a lot of money. So just gonna move on past. So one thing that strikes me as truly crazy while I'm looking into all of this, just because of copyright laws happen to be 100 years after a published work, but because The Great Gatsby was written 100 years ago, fair game, go have it. Like, if SenLinYu had written this 100 years later, she would be making a buttload of money from it because it would be a classic. And it's such a weird concept. I don't know why it's there, but it doesn't make it less weird. I am also incredibly grateful that we have platforms that give artists access to dispersing and distributing their art. Alrighty, back to it. I've woken up this morning. I am gonna go on a big walk. I'm in the later section of the flashbacks now. I think I'm up to like flashback 30. There's part of me that wants to put this book away and just take a breath to soak it in, and also just to wait because I'm still attempting to get this bound. So I'm like, I kind of want to read it bound, but I also don't know if I have that in me to not continue the rest of the book. So anyway, I'm out this morning. I've got a nice big walk ahead of me. I have my headphones, so we're gonna keep listening to the audiobook. We are getting dangerously close to the end of the flashbacks, and I'm nervous. I'm nervous how it's going to start to unfold as we jump back. Hey, duck. Okay, so it's so interesting because obviously the book's titled Manacled. I think I forgot to mention this, but essentially each of the surrogates have manacles on their wrists, and that's like, it's tied to their magic. They can't use magic, stops them being able to reach for objects to harm. The Death Eater is interesting because you think that that's the reason it's called Manacled. But the more and more I'm listening, but the more we get to see his backstory, the more you're like, oh wait, like he's just wearing his own cuffs. That's all. Okay, if you ever see The Princess Bride, Wesley says, "As you wish," in trade for "I love you." Fault in Our Stars, they have a saying, oh gosh, I can't remember it right now. In this, it's, "Don't die." It's so cute. Anyway, don't die. I cannot put this book down. I read for hours yesterday. I was meant to be doing a different book challenge. I cannot physically bring myself to put it down to the point that I need to do work today. I am listening. I've been listening to it while doing some like lower key admin that doesn't require my brain. So I've just been full immersion into this, and I have so many feelings. If you like to deconstruct human psychology and the toxic things that our brains get into, this. And I did not understand Dramoni fiction. I was like, I don't really get why everyone's so obsessed with these two characters getting together. But now I get it. They are genuinely so similar when you start to unpack a lot of their like history and school and trauma, like all the stuff that gets unpacked. Like you're like, wow, of course these characters, like, make total sense. It's just a very fascinating dynamic. And I think the other fascinating part about it is like seeing all of this unfold from Hermione's perspective. She was such a strong character in the Harry Potter series, but despite that, she was also like really cast aside. Like, we really did not give her credit for how much she was not given credit. Like, she did so much and just was kind of ignored a little bit. So it is kind of nice to acknowledge that and like the reality of what that emotionally must have been like for her to be the best friend of the chosen one and to just constantly be like backing him up, and he just didn't really ever acknowledge it. Like, so that's fascinating. And I think, yeah, just unpacking Malfoy as a character, understanding his trauma, like getting a behind the scenes, all this other stuff that like we did never get told directly in Harry Potter, but would make total sense. Like, would, from context of how he acts, you're like, of course that would be happening behind the scenes, and we never got to see it, to the point where I'm like, this should have been a B line. Like, this should have been included. This should have been what the cursed child was. Am I allowed to say that? I don't think so. I don't know. It's kind of how I feel. Look, I am loving it. So we're going to get back into it. I'm going to continue to attempt to do some work, but we're also going to listen to the audiobook because, you know. So I officially just finished the flashbacks today. So emotional. I'm wrecked. Like, I don't know if I have any feelings left in my body. I'm gonna... So in the flashback, you're just sitting there reading, being like, I don't think we come back from this. Like, that is a toughie. Like, oh, SenLinYu, you have done us dirty. In the flashbacks, in the latter half, we're just kind of getting all the pieces of the puzzle. Like, everything's falling into place. Like, everything, every question you had from part one where you're like, how did this happen? How did this happen? How did this happen? It's all coming together and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And so that was super satisfying and also heart-wrenching and heartbreaking, sad, all of the feelings. So that's really hard to read, but yeah, no, that's it. End of it's really hard to read. So that's all happened and we're jumping back from the flashbacks and now we're having to grapple with all of that. So we're gonna keep reading. Emotionally, I don't know if I'm gonna make it, but we're gonna give it a red hot go. Let's get into part 3, the ending. He's really just like hurt. He's just so hurt. And what does he do when he's hurt? He's a dick. Well, it has been a few days since I last read Manacled. The ending is destroying me. I honestly had to take a break. Just kind of kept getting worse, essentially. There was like something that I was like holding out hope for. I was like, I hope they don't do that. I hope they don't have to do that. And then they did it. And it was fine. Like, I see why they did it. But it was just like, I wanted them to catch a break, you know? Like, I wanted them to have this like one thing. Nope, not allowed that. We're coasting through the last little bit. So anyway, I've got like an hour and a half left of this book. So I kind of spoiled it for myself. I kind of read a forum the other day that was talking about like the final line. And so I kind of know what the final line is. And like, I literally start crying every time I think about it. And I know that it's coming, and like I needed to know that it was coming almost. I don't know if you're like this, but like I need to sometimes when something's like really emotional, I need to know how it's gonna end so that I can cope. Because if it just like blindsides me, I'm not gonna handle it. Anyway, I know what the final line is, and I think, well, now I'm like just working backward to it. Oh my god, I'm literally gonna cry. But I just don't know how we get from here to there. I'm gonna go to my happy place, which is the cafe, and we're gonna read, and we're gonna see if I can get through this. A little aside. So while I was taking a break from Manacled, I honestly didn't think that I would be this person, not to judge this person, but like I just personally was like, I don't know if I'm like a Dramoni. Like I just didn't really get it. But obviously I didn't get it because I hadn't read it yet. Duh. So yeah, you can't judge what you don't know because I officially have joined the Dramoni fan club. I decided on my days off from reading Manacled that I would go down a rabbit hole of downloading a whole lot of other fan fiction. I feel like I've just stumbled upon a goldmine, and honestly I haven't read them yet. Like I've read little samples, like a few of them are kind of and then a few of them are like giving the quality of Manacled. I don't know if they will be or not, but that's kind of the vibes. My dog's barking. So I've started reading a few of those on the side. One of my favorite tropes in books is the whole I'll love you in every lifetime, that kind of intensity of love, and bonus if it's a multiple universes style novel. It feels like I've hacked the system, and that not only have I just read this like epic, very twisted love story, but now I can like heal that trauma by going and reading about all their other universes. Like that's how it is in my head. In my head, all of these stories exist together, just alternate realities, parallel universes. And I'm just like, that happened, but so did that, and so did that. So yeah, I just feel like I now get it. I get why people are obsessed with Dramoni fiction in every lifetime, literally. Anyway, I'm gonna stop. Safe to say I have some reading ahead of me. I'm just gonna have to like dabble in them throughout the year, because if not, I will literally not read anything else. There are so many. But I started, which one did I start? Someone recommended to read Draco Malfoy and the Mortifying Ordeal of Being in Love, which is like a bodyguard romance style of Hermione and Draco, which so far very funny. Very different. Completely different. This has been such an emotional roller coaster. That officially is the end. Finish the book. I have to. It was easily 5 stars. So good. Alright, well, I'm gonna have to take some time to write a review, but yeah, that's my Manacled universe ended. It's very bittersweet, but also like probably good for my mental health that I'm done. Safe to say I am very excited to read Alchemised. If you do not already know, this book has been taken offline because it's going to be published in a new form. It won't be the same story, obviously, for copyright reasons, but they're going to change it up. The premise will still be the same, and it will be published as Alchemised. So it'll be really interesting to read that. If you have read this, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you're planning to read it, good luck, and please read your trigger warnings before you go in. Stay safe, take breaks if you need it. Otherwise, happy reading, and I'll see you in the next one.